It's the middle of the night.
Setting the scene.
Exactly. Visually, imagine these warm, earthy tones all around you. You've got terracotta, sun-bleached wood, dusty ochre everywhere. And there's this really beautiful high-contrast lighting happening.
Like a stage play.
Yeah, you have the warm, flickering golden glow of oil lanterns, and they are pushing back against a very cool, piercingly bright moonlight.
Oh, wow.
And you can smell it, too. There's night-blooming jasmine in the air, mixing with the scent of dry, dusty earth. Mm-hmm. And if you listen really closely, you just hear the constant, low, rhythmic hum of crickets.
It is an incredibly vivid setting, and what you're describing is the opening sensory landscape of the fascinating document we're looking at today.
It really is.
For this deep dive, we are exploring a 20-minute script and production guide. It's titled Nasreddin, The Wise Fool of the Well. And what makes this text so captivating is that it's a literal masterclass in blending two things that, well, they usually just don't go together.
Right.
You've got high energy, physical slapstick comedy on one hand, and then incredibly deep, grounded philosophy on the other.
Which brings us to our mission today. We are going to step inside this script. We wanted to look at the stage directions, the dialogue, the incredible atmosphere this production guide builds, and figure out what it's really trying to tell us.
Because there's a lot beneath the surface.
Exactly. On the surface, you are reading a story about a guy doing some utterly ridiculous things. But underneath, there is a whole lot more going on.
And my role here today is to help decipher the specific aesthetic of this wise fool character, Nasreddin.
Right.
We're going to look at how his clumsy, seemingly absurd actions aren't just for laughs. They're actually profound pedagogical tools. He's teaching through his own ridiculousness.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's dive right into the opening sequence, which the guide labels Act 1, The Reflection of Disaster.
A great title.
It is. So the narrator tells us the village is quiet, that even the wind seems tired. And we see Nasreddin walking with this rhythmic, kind of wobbly gait toward the ancient communal stone, well, right at the center of the village.
And the sensory details here are so specific.
Yes. The guy grounds the moment perfectly. So his nose twitches at the smell of damp moss and stagnant minerals. He leans over the edge, looking down into the dark water, and suddenly he panics.
Completely loses it.
Yeah. If you look at the stage directions here, you see Nasreddin grabbing his coarse, dry beard with both hands, pulling it downward in a mask of sheer tragic realization.
Because he genuinely believes he's witnessing a cosmic catastrophe.
Right. He looks down and he gasps this sharp, horrified whisper, "The moon. It has fallen into the well."
Oh, man.
And he just cries out, "This is a disaster. If the moon stays in the well, the world will be dark tomorrow. It'll drown in that cold water and we shall live in shadows forever."
It's so dramatic. But before we get to the comedy of his reaction, we really need to look at the setting itself.
The well.
Yeah, the well. The production guide actually includes a historical note here. It points out that in 13th century Anatolian village life, the communal well was much more than just a place to get water.
It wasn't just plumbing.
Right. Think of it like the water cooler at your office, but if your actual survival depended on it, it was the absolute heart of the community.
Wow.
And for Nasreddin, in this specific moment, the well becomes a microcosm of the entire world. It's literally the place where the celestial, the sky and the moon and the terrestrial, the earth and the water meet in a single reflection.
It's a genuinely beautiful image, right up until Nasreddin completely shatters the piece.
Naturally.
So his old neighbor, Fatima, leans out of her window. She is framed by the warm glow of an oil lamp, and she just yells at him that he is going to wake the goats.
She's not having it.
Not at all. But Nasreddin is fully committed to the crisis. He points a trembling finger into the dark hole and tells her the heavens have emptied.
And she looks.
She looks in, sees the reflection, and she completely falls for it, too. She gasps and says, "Oh no, it looks so cold down there."
Which perfectly sets up Nasreddin to become the hero of his own imaginary disaster.
Oh, he eats it up. He pucks out his chest, does this high-kneed, frantic windmilling run back to his house, and declares to Fatima, "Do not despair, woman. I shall rescue it. I am a man of action."
A man of action.
Which brings us to the hilarious rescue sequence in Act 2. We get this frantic montage of Nasreddin rummaging through a cluttered shed. He tosses aside a rusted plow, an old boot, and finally emerges with a heavy, coiled hemp rope and a rusted metal hook.
Gotta have the tools.
He runs back, completely trips over a loose stone, but recovers with this totally unearned heroic pose.
The physical comedy directions in this section are incredibly precise. The aesthetic they're going for requires a really careful marriage of high-energy slapstick with total, unwavering earnestness.
It's pure chaos. He swings the rusted hook overhead like a lasso, but it's this wide, completely uncoordinated arc.
Not a professional roper.
Not even close. He accidentally clips the stone rim of the well, sending sparks flying everywhere, and throws it into the dark with a massive splash. Then he starts fishing for the moon.
Fishing for a reflection.
Yeah. The directions say his tongue is poking out of the corner of his mouth in deep concentration. And then suddenly, there's a sharp metallic clank from the bottom of the well. The hook has snagged a submerged rock.
But to Nasreddin, he hasn't caught a rock. He genuinely believes he's caught the moon by its silver mane.
He yells, "Aha! I have it!" And he just starts pulling frantically. He leans back at a 45-degree angle. His heels are digging actual trenches into the dry dirt. You can hear the scratchy hemp rope fraying against the stone edge.
The tension is building.
And then his turban slips. It unfurls like a long white banner and completely covers his face, blinding him.
Yeah.
By this point, the whole village has woken up. They are gathered around in their night robes, holding their collective breath.
Watching this madman.
Nasreddin gives one final agonizing heave, face turning red, and snap.
There goes.
The rope recoils violently. Nasreddin is launched backward. His leather sandals fly off in completely opposite directions. He executes a full backward flip through the frame and lands flat on his back in a massive cloud of dust.
Let's pause right here, because this isn't just a 13th century blooper reel. This specific failure is our first real glimpse into what makes Nasreddin a pedagogical genius.
Wait, really? A guy doing a backflip into the dirt because he doesn't understand how reflections work is a pedagogical genius.
Absolutely. What's fascinating here is how the script uses this physical failure to introduce a very specific historical trope, the clumsy savior.
The clumsy savior.
Yeah. Nasreddin Hoxha often occupies this role in these old anecdotes. The trope suggests that human effort, trying to fix the world, trying to save the light, is inherently noble, even when it is based on a complete and utter misunderstanding of reality.
Okay.
His effort was genuine, even if his premise was totally flawed. Think about how often you try incredibly hard to fix a situation in your own life, only to realize you completely misread the room. The effort still matters.
When you frame it like that, it actually makes the reveal even better.
How does he react?
As the dust settles, Nasreddin blinks. His turban is still half covering his nose. Because he's flat on his back, he's staring straight up at the sky.
Right, at the moon.
Exactly. The camera pans up, and there's the moon shining peacefully above the minaret. A slow, smug smile spreads across his face. He doesn't get up, he just lies there, arms spread wide, and says, "Do not worry. It was a difficult battle. The moon is heavy and stubborn, but I managed to put it back in its rightful place."
He completely claims the victory of the moon naturally being in the sky.
He takes all the credit. When Fatima mutters that it was always up there, he just brushes the dust off his robes with exaggerated dignity and tells her that if she thinks it was easy, she can rescue it next time.
Which perfectly sets up his lesson the next day.
It does, which is the punchline the very next morning. The sun is out, and Nasreddin is walking through the village square with an exaggerated limp, leaning on a staff. A group of school children are following him around, begging to know the secret of how to save a celestial body.
They want the wisdom.
Nasreddin stops, strokes his beard with his scholarly, highbrow air, and says it requires 3 things. Courage to face the dark, intelligence to find a hook, and a strong rope.
Very sage advice.
But one little boy points at the frayed, broken rope hanging from his belt and giggles, pointing out that the rope broke and Nasreddin fell in the dirt.
And Nasreddin's response to the boy is just brilliant. He nods with profound seriousness and says, "Exactly. That is the greatest lesson of all. That is why I recommend a stronger rope next time."
I love that.
He completely absorbs the failure into his teaching.
So he's mastered the art of failing physically to prove a point. But how does that translate when people actually come to him for serious help? Here's where it gets really interesting.
We move to Act 3.
Right. The script shifts into Act 3, where we see Nasreddin acting as a qadi, a judge or a haja, a teacher for the village. He basically becomes this bizarre village consultant.
Before we look at the cases he handles, let's clarify what those titles actually mean in this context.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
A qadi is a judge, and a hoja is a teacher. But in a small 13th century village, think of this role as a mix between a small-town mayor, a local pastor, and a therapist.
A lot of hats to wear.
Very much so. People brought him their legal disputes, sure, but they also brought him their existential crises, their neighborhood drama, their daily anxieties.
That makes perfect sense. And we get 3 distinct mini-scenes showing him at work, starting with what the guide calls the baker's loss.
Ah, the chickens.
The chickens. The baker is pacing his shop, smelling a fresh pita, and he's totally distraught because thieves stole his finest hens from a double-bolted coop. Nasreddin picks up a stray feather, examines it like it's a rare scroll, and starts questioning the baker.
Getting the facts.
Right. Did he lock the coop? Yes. Did he count them? Yes. Then Nasreddin pauses and asks, but did you thank them for their service?
The baker is completely baffled, naturally. I mean, they're chickens.
Right. But Nasreddin explains that even a chicken has a soul that craves appreciation, and unappreciated chickens will seek out better opportunities elsewhere.
It's just so out there.
When the baker argues that chickens cannot open a double-bolted door, Nasreddin just shrugs, winks at the camera, and says, then perhaps they hired someone to open it for them.
It's entirely absurd, but it perfectly transitions into his next role in the rain prediction scene.
See, I have to stop you there for a second, because my first thought watching the chicken scene is that he's just dodging the question. How is telling a guy his chickens hired a mercenary helpful? But let's look at the rain prediction, because it gets even weirder.
It does escalate.
The villagers surround him on a dusty, cracked road. They are holding empty water jugs, begging to know if it will rain. Nasreddin closes his eyes, lifts one finger dramatically into the dry air, stands perfectly still for 5 seconds, and declares, yes, it will rain. I feel the moisture in my very bones.
Very prophetic.
Cut to the next day, the sun is a scorching orb, not a cloud in the sky. The furious villagers find him napping under a tree, yelling that they left their laundry inside and waited, and he was completely wrong.
But he's totally unbothered. He opens one eye and says, I was not wrong. I said it would rain. I simply did not say where. He tells them that somewhere in the world, someone is getting wet and they should be happy for them.
Okay, come on. Isn't he just being a con artist here? He told them it would rain, they got scorched, their plans were ruined, and he's dodging accountability by saying, I didn't say where. How is that teaching them anything?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the production guide includes a vital historical note for this section. These solutions, Nasreddin offers the unappreciated chickens, the raining elsewhere, they are highly deliberate.
Deliberate how?
He is serving as a mirror. His absurd solutions force the questioner to suddenly realize the absurdity, the triviality, and the sheer ego wrapped up in their own complaints.
Oh, I see.
Think about the last time you let a bad weather forecast ruin your entire weekend mood. Nasreddin is basically holding up a mirror and saying, look how small your perspective is right now.
He's short-circuiting their outrage with comedy. And that actually culminates in the donkey trial, which is my favorite part of the whole script.
It's like a classic.
2 men are tugging at a confused donkey outside Nasreddin's house. Man 1 loves his donkey. Man 2 is furious because he watched the donkey eat his prize cabbages. Nasreddin sits down, sighs, and asks us to consider the cabbage, quote, a vegetable of silent growth, and the donkey an animal of loud hunger.
It is a beautifully poetic way to describe property damage.
It really is.
Yeah.
So he asks Man 1 if the donkey is a thief. Man 1 says no, he's a saint. Nasreddin invalidates him. You are right. He asks Man 2 if the cabbages are gone. Man 2 says yes, the garden is a wasteland. Nasreddin validates him too. You are also right.
And the men are furious at this impossible logic. How can they both be right when their positions are entirely opposed?
Nasreddin places a hand on each man's shoulder. He tells Man 1 he's right because he loves his donkey and chooses to see his innocence and loves the highest truth. Then he tells Man 2 he's right because vegetables mysteriously disappear whenever life is involved, and experience is also a high truth.
So he validates both realities.
Yes, and when they demand an actual verdict, Nasreddin gives them the ultimate piece of practical, if entirely unhelpful, legal advice. Next time, tie the donkey and eat your vegetables faster.
Think about the last time you found yourself in a massive argument online or with a friend. You are looking at the exact same set of facts as the other person, but you're coming to completely different conclusions.
Happens every day.
Nasreddin is basically pointing out that your subjective experience dictates your truth. We see this in modern internet arguments constantly. He doesn't solve the problem. He diffuses the tension by validating both realities and offering a ridiculous practical solution.
Which brings us to the final quiet moments of the script. Act 4, the secret wisdom. The slapstick is gone. The setting is beautiful and still. It's evening on Nasreddin's porch. The sun is dipping below the horizon, painting the village in violet and gold. You can smell wood smoke in the air.
It's a huge tonal shift.
It is. Nasreddin and Fatima are sitting together, and he pours hot tea from a brass pot, the steam curling into the cool night air.
It's a moment of deep intimacy and reflection after all the daytime chaos we've just witnessed.
Fatima finally asks the question that you, the listener, have probably been wondering this whole time. She says she's watched him for years. Sometimes she thinks he is the greatest fool in Anatolia, and other times she thinks he sees things everyone else is too blind to notice.
The ultimate question.
She asks him flat out, are you foolish or secretly wise? Nasreddin looks out at the village with a look of genuine peace, and he replies that he is both and neither.
Fatima points out quite rightly that this is a riddle, not an answer.
But Nasreddin tells her it's the only answer. And then he delivers this pivotal, incredibly striking quote. He says, if I act wise, people become defensive. They argue. They try to prove they are wiser. But if I act foolish, people laugh. And while they are busy laughing, their hearts open up. And while they are open, they finally listen.
That dialogue isn't just a clever scriptwriter's invention. It is rooted in a very real, deep history. The production guide explains that this reflects the Sufi tradition of the Malamati.
Okay, let's break that down for a second. What exactly is the Malamati tradition?
The Malamati were Sufi mystics and practitioners who deliberately courted public ridicule. They intentionally acted foolishly or even disgracefully in the eyes of society for two main reasons. First, it kept their own egos in check.
How so?
Think about it. It is incredibly hard to be arrogant or self-righteous when the whole village is laughing at your flying sandals and your broken rope. You can't put yourself on a pedestal if you are willingly rolling in the dust.
So it's an extreme form of humility.
Exactly. And the second reason is even more brilliant. It allowed them to use non-traditional means to bypass people's defensive intellectual barriers. By playing the fool, they disarmed people.
Like because they aren't a threat.
Right. When someone approaches you as a grand, serious teacher, your guard immediately goes up. You want to debate them or you feel intimidated. But when a guy gives you absurd advice about your chickens hiring mercenaries, you laugh. Your guard drops.
And then the lesson sneaks in.
Yes. In that moment of lowered defenses, the actual lesson slips in completely unnoticed. It's the same reason why today some of our most incisive social commentary comes from stand-up comedians rather than politicians. Comedy disarms us.
So what does this all mean? How does this translate for you listening to this today? We have this character who throws himself into the dirt, who gives terrible legal advice about cabbages, all to pry open the hearts of his neighbors. Where is the actual wisdom?
Nasreddin gives us the answer in his final piece of wisdom. Fatima asks him what the greatest wisdom is that he's found in all this laughing and failing. Nasreddin looks up at the moon, then back at the dark well, and he says that knowing the moon is only a reflection is fine. But, and I'm quoting the script here, the act of pulling on the rope, of falling in the dust, and of trying to save the light that teaches you more than merely staring at the sky.
Is such a phenomenal ending. The script guide notes that the camera does a slow zoom onto his face. He gives a tiny knowing nod, and it fades to black while a solo plucked string melody resolves into a deep minor key.
A perfect close.
We have journeyed all the way from flying leather sandals and frayed hemp ropes snapping in the dust, through absurd legal trials about hungry donkeys, right to the profound Sufi philosophy of the Malamati, the power of an open, laughing heart.
And that is the practical takeaway for you today. The next time you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're foolishly trying to pull the moon out of a well, when your efforts feel clumsy or messy, or when you end up metaphorically flat on your back in the dust, remember Nasreddin.
The effort is the point.
Yes. The active pursuit of the light, the very effort of trying, even if your premise is entirely flawed, is where the real education happens. That clumsy, earnest effort teaches you infinitely more than just passively standing back, keeping your hands clean, and staring at the sky with all the right answers.
The messiness really is the curriculum. If you never pull the rope, you never learn how strong it needs to be.
Well said. This raises an important question to leave you with, to mull over on your own. If acting the fool is a proven, centuries-old strategy to open people's minds and bypass their defensive barriers, who, in our modern society, might secretly be practicing this Malamati tradition right in front of us? From late-night comedians to eccentric internet thinkers, who might actually be offering us profound wisdom, cleverly disguised as nothing more than a court jester.